I posted a video on my Facebook page of my St. Bernard having a drink of water last night. Went for about 40 seconds. And my brother commented that maybe that St. Bernard is part camel. It reminded me of a story by A. Patterson, Banjo Patterson, the Australian poet, about someone shouting for a camel. What are you talking about? Well, we lived in Australia for 4 years. It took us a while to figure everything out. I don't know we ever figured everything out, but one thing we did figure out, that shouting for someone meant that you paid for their drink and for their meal. When they say, "I'll shout you," hey, that's nice. Say yes right away. They're not mad at you. They're just going to pay for your drink. Now, this is a story of a desert town, a mining town, and someone who decided to get a camel on the cheap. It was over at Coolgardie that a mining speculator who was going down the township just to make a bit of chink went off to hire a camel from a camel propagator. And the Afghan said he'd lend it if he'd stand the beast a drink. Yes, the only price he asked him was to stand the beast a drink. He was cheap, very cheap as the dromedaries go. So the mining speculator made the bargain, proudly thinking he had bested the old trader. He had done him in the eye. Then he clambered on the camel, and while the beast was drinking, he explained with satisfaction to the miners standing by, it was cheap, very cheap, as the dromedaries go. But the camel kept on drinking and filled his hold with water, and the more he had inside him, yet the more he seemed to need. For he drank it by the gallon, his girths grew taut and tauter, and the miners muttered softly, "Yes, he's very dry indeed. But he's cheap, very cheap, as the dromedaries go." So he drank up 20 buckets. It was weird to watch him suck it. And the market price for water was per bucket ½ a crown. Till the speculator stopped him, saying, "Not another bucket. If I give him any more, there'll be a famine in the town. Take him back to the old trader and I'll tramp it through the town." He was cheap, very cheap, as the speculators go. Now, there's a moral to this story. In your hat, you ought to paste it. Be careful whom you shout for when a camel is about. There's plenty of human camels who, before they'll see you waste it, will drink up all you pay for if you're fool enough to shout. If you chance to strike a camel when you're fool enough to shout, you'll be cheap, very cheap, as the speculators go. Classic Banjo Patterson.